Welcome to the Toffee Blues, your source for all things Everton, and welcome to another Opposition View show where we'll be looking ahead to our next game down on the South Coast against Brighton. We're going to be getting some insight into all things Brighton tonight, and we're going to be picking Brighton fans' brains. We'll be getting the information courtesy of Ady Packham, who has joined us tonight from Brighton podcast, the Albion Roar. He's going to fill us in on how things have been going for his team and tell us what we can expect from the Seagulls come 3 o'clock on Saturday. So, without further ado, Ady, as always, we start on this show with how the season's been so far. 2 wins, 3 draws, 4 losses, 9 points. You're currently 16th, directly below Everton in the table. We're 15th. Does the league table reflect Brighton's performance so far this season, do you think, or is it a bit of a false representation?
No, I mean, it's a bit of a weird one for us because, I mean, last year we kind of bored our way through the season, and this year the performances have been great, and we should definitely have at least another 6 points on the board than we have already. We've had this really stupid habit of conceding late equalisers in a couple of the home games. And again, away at Villa last week, we conceded with the last kick of the game, where we absolutely bossed the game for most of it. Even with going down to 10 men, we still bossed it. And it was just 2 lapses of concentration that let us down, really, and a stupid red card. But that can happen.
Well, I will admit I've seen very little of Brighton, but from what I have seen, I've seen you perform very well. Obviously, you whacked Tottenham recently. You lost late on last week.
Most people are doing that.
True, but they haven't played Everton yet.
This is true. Yeah,
you were unlucky to lose to Villa. I saw you beaten 4-0 off City, but I thought you gave them a brilliant game until you conceded the first. And I think, from what I've seen,
well, that's a bit. I was bearing in mind we conceded the first and the second minute, but but we did nearly equalise.
Sorry, I meant the second. I thought actually
that would work. But yeah, no, we did. We did nearly. I know. I forget as well. But we did nearly equalise. We've got a new fellow we signed from Genk called Leandro Trossard.
He's great.
We haven't seen an awful lot of him because it's one of those who goes away on international duty and comes back broken, which is not ideal. We haven't seen him since the end of August, but he was just starting to settle in, started to show what he could do, and we're all getting really quite excited about him. And then he's picked up this injury, but he was back on the bench on Saturday. Obviously, Aaron Moy getting sent off last week basically means there's a slot has now opened up for him. So hopefully, touch wood, he will get a starting berth against you lot on Saturday. Yeah,
well, it was a name. He was actually linked with Everton last summer before you guys signed him. It was we got fleetingly linked with him at times, and I didn't know much about him, to be honest with you, but from what I saw before he got injured, he was impressively playing for you guys. And
his show reel's pretty impressive, but then everyone's show reel's pretty impressive if you just take the highlights. But
obviously, I'm talking about the opening day when you hammered Watford. Obviously, I know Watford is still bottom of the league, so maybe take it a bit more lightly. But I was impressed with what I saw.
Yeah, I mean, we played really, really well in that game. I mean, obviously, Graham Potter's come in. It's a completely different style of play to what we were seeing under Chris Hughton. We absolutely love Chris down here. He did a fantastic job for us, but I mean, the time had come. I think he'd reached the end of the road. Last season we finished with 36 points, and our form just fell off a cliff from the turn of the year onwards. And there's rumours that some players behind the scenes weren't overly happy with the training methods, and then. Now, obviously, Graham Potter's come in. We've taken a chance, which we'd like to see a lot of other clubs do, to be honest. But we've taken a chance in signing a young, promising English manager from a lower division. Obviously, his record speaks for itself. He did brilliantly well with Ostersons. Swansea took a chance on him last season. He did brilliantly well there with his hands tied behind his back. He's come in, he's changed his style of play. He's making the personnel we had last season rethink their game. He's he's making a sow's purse out of a pig's ear, really. I mean, he's doing an absolute amazing job at the moment. Results haven't quite come yet, but and there's no guarantee that they are going to come. But the performances certainly have been a lot better. It's been entertaining to watch. The players are buying into what he wants them to do, and it's just a matter of time before it finally. It looked like it clicked last week. It looked like it was clicking again against Villa. But it's the same as with every club, really. It's particularly at this level. If you don't take chances, then you can play the most magnificent, beautiful football in the world. But if you don't score goals, you don't win games, and that's where we're at the moment.
That's for sure. I mean, we've been a bit like that ourselves. As I said before, we're only 1 point and one place apart in the league table right now. I'm always keen on this show to find out what a club's fan base has made of the season so far, which is like what you just said. But I'm also keen to get an outsider's view on Everton. So what have you made of Everton's performance so far this season?
Again, I mean, it's very hard to gauge. I mean, there's a lot of love for Everton in Brighton, really. I mean, growing up in Brighton in the 70s and 80s, all the glory hunters have supported the other side of your town there. So it was so Everton were seen as the purest choice. We don't like the glory hunters around here.
We still the purest choice.
Yeah, that's what it is. But I mean, I was asking around in our office today, actually, if you could take an Everton player in your team, who would you take? And and every single one. I mean, we've got the various different teams representing our office: West Ham, Palace.
Oh God!
Yeah,
I'm surprised that one went down well. Are you a local lad in Brighton?
Yeah, I know.
So I'm sure that one must go down very well.
No one mentioned any of the attacking talent you've got. Everyone was going for more of the defences. Like the Palace fans, they were going for Digne or Coleman. There were a couple were looking at I can't remember the guy's name. The fellow you signed up, you had him on loan last year. What's his name again?
Gomez.
That's it. A lot of people said him. But
it's funny you should say this. Actually, it was one of the questions I was going to ask you later on in the show. So, who would you have gone for?
Well, again, it's a difficult question because it's like Everton have been very, very expensively assembled over the last couple of years. You spent a lot of money on a lot of very good players, but you haven't seemed to improved at all. So that's either down to you picking the wrong players or the manager not getting the best out of them. I think I know which one of the two that is. I mean, I personally, I said when I spoke to you guys last year, I'm a big fan of Gylfi. I think he's a wonderful, wonderful footballer. But even he can't get into the team at the moment. You seem to have an awful lot of number 10s, but not a lot going around them. So, but I mean, Alex Iwobi is a player which I've always admired. I don't think he's necessarily always had the rub of the green wherever he's played. And obviously he's come to you to get a fresh start. And he can terrorise teams with his pace and his straightforward running. He just goes straight for goal, and everyone likes that in a player. And he must be a nightmare to defend against.
I will admit, I think I was quite underwhelmed when we signed them for quite a lot of money as well. But
yeah, I mean the price.
Yeah, a lot of Everton fans have warmed to Iwobi over the last couple of weeks. His performances he's been one of the better performers so far this year.
But I mean, one thing that we always say, and we have to remind people, and I'm sure you have to do the same as well, is that when you sign a player, you can't really look at the price tag as a justification for him being in the team or being a world beater. That's just what they cost these days. I hate the transfer market. I hate seeing the amount of zeros that are on the end of some of these things.
It's nauseating at times, isn't it?
Yeah, well, when you see us paying 20 million quid for a player, the world's gone mad.
I know.
But I mean, these players are great. I mean, I think Moise Kean is going to be. I mean, it was amazing that you managed to get him. I think that he's one of Europe's brightest starlets. And I think, but he's still very, very raw, and there's a lot to come from him. and I think that maybe a better manager might get more out than maybe. But
it is interesting to see what will happen with Marco Silva. I think for now, I think the win last week has saved his job for the time being. But I think if were you guys to beat us on Saturday, then it could all be blown back up in the air. But it's funny you should mention that. It's insane to think that Brighton are spending that kind of money on players, 20 million plus, when I can recall. I can recall when you were playing at the Whitteam.
Oh, we look back to that with great fondness. It was a good time for us. It was a most successful time of our history, really, in terms of the amount of silverware that we won. But I mean, it was only meant to be a life raft for a couple of years, but it was the longest. I mean, I think they probably would have managed that life raft would have saved everybody on Titanic. We were there for so long. It was it was 12 years there. Well, and yeah, we've come a long way. I mean, and we're spending money on players for the academy which would have kept us. The transfer fees would have kept us going for a couple of years back then. But I mean, that's what the Premier League, the money in the Premier League does, and I don't think that's necessarily a good thing. I think it's probably a bad. But we at the end of the day, we're all in it. We all know that the Championship's the best league in Europe. But we've got no desire to go back there anytime soon. Thank you very much. It's just the amount of money that's being spent, particularly at the top level, is ridiculous. I mean, come on, is Harry Maguire really worth 90 million quid? No,
not really. I wonder how many Goldstone grounds you could buy for 90 million.
Oh God! Well, that's what that's what the Amex cost. So it was
exactly. So how many Goldstone grounds could you buy with 90 million pounds?
The Goldstone was great though. I mean, it was we used to love the fact that the food store was right next to the toilets, and it was like, and you couldn't really tell which one you were smelling at any one time. It was brilliant.
Goodison's not changed much in that time, so I'm sure. Well, when you come back to Goodison later on in the season, you'll see.
Yeah, I know the Gladys
get a bit of a nostalgic feel to it. Right, moving on. You finished 17th last season, yes. Only 2 points clear of danger under Chris Hughton, and obviously Potter's been drafted in to help Brighton kick on as a top-flight club and maybe consolidate yourselves, if you like. We've seen him impress at previous clubs, like you mentioned, Ostersund and then Swansea last year. What impact has Potter had on you guys so far? Obviously, you say the style of play is changing a little bit, but what sort of improvements? Maybe what's gone?
Well, he's a really, really intelligent guy. I mean, he's got a couple of degrees from a couple of universities. He's got a degree in human intelligence. He's teaching the players a lot. I think about he knows about how to get inside people's heads and analyze their psyche, and he's a very, very intelligent man. He's very thoughtful. He's very well read. And the players are actually buying into what he's doing. It seemed, I mean, last season it would have seemed absolutely ridiculous to think that Shane Duffy couldn't get back into the team again. But even Shane's held his hands up and admitted that
Webster's been good for you guys.
Well, yes and no. He's one of those players, very much like Rio Ferdinand. Actually, like it would be brilliant for 86 minutes, and then that 4 minutes would be absolutely dreadful and cost you the game. And he has got a mistake in it. But
is that a bit like that? I did see that against Aston Villa, in fact, with the late goal.
Yeah, that was probably more down to Shane Duffy actually, but he actually came on as a sub in that game, and we think he probably could have got a blocking on the shot. But I mean, we shouldn't have been in that position in the first place. It was just poor decision making. The ball, 30 seconds left, and you're clearing it you're giving them the ball back. You don't do that. You try and close out the game. But
anyway, that could be down to intelligence again. Do you think that Potter will maybe improve that over time?
Well, yeah, it's game management, isn't it? And everyone's, nobody really likes to see their team go to the corner flag, but you're 30 seconds away from the final whistle, in deep into injury time, away from home, with you're drawing 1-1. The last thing you want to do is lose the game. I think other possible what he tries to do, he will try and win the game still. And I think that was.
I agree with that myself. I understand maybe taking the corner flag and hold out a 1-goal margin of victory, if you know what I mean. But I wouldn't do it if we were drawing a game, even away from home. I wouldn't play for a draw.
No,
I mean, well, I'd play for it, but I wouldn't play for run to the corner flag and make sure it's a draw.
yeah,
If you know what I mean.
Again, it's. I mean, I think might as well be hung as a sheep as a lamb, right? So it's one of those weird footballing conundrums that we all have to scratch our heads about and wonder what.
I mean, we're in this era of over-analysing games, so everybody's always going to question what if, aren't they? So,
well, yeah, and at some point, someone's going to explain to me exactly what XG is all about, and I will still scratch my head.
I throw any of that stuff in the bin, really. I really don't buy into that at all. Of course, you mentioned Shane Duffy there. Of course, there's not many links between Everton and Brighton in terms of personnel. I've noticed over the years, but Shane Duffy was an Everton academy graduate.
Yeah.
What sort of impact has he had apart from maybe costing you the game last week?
Oh, like Shane was player of the season last year. It was probably, I think it was our second or third leading scorer last season. He'll put his body on the line. He's more blocks, more tackles, more headers than anyone else last season. He's a class. He's an absolutely wonderful defender. The jury's out on whether he's a wonderful footballer. It's under Potter, he likes to play free at the back and he likes to play out from the back, and that's where Shane struggled a little bit. Like I said, I mean, he'll do all of the defensive side of the game brilliantly, but it's like as playing football wise, we figured that if anyone was going to be the fall guy, it might have been him, but that was out of him and Shane and Lewis Dunk. We weren't expecting to play free at the back. So the fact that Dan Burns come in and done brilliantly well.
I've been very impressed with him.
Oh, he's great. He's great, and he's 8'2" when he's lying down. He's brilliant. He's like with all this VAR nonsense that came in, we thought, well, no wonder Peter Crouch is like retired, because with his feet, he'd be offside before he's even done anything. But I mean, and every goal we've had disallowed this year through VAR, guess who's to blame? The big man, the most obvious person on the pitch. But
it's not. He's not. If he makes a mistake, it's hard for him to hide.
No, but yeah, he's been very impressive, and he can play football. So we've been very. I mean, he was here last year. Chris didn't really give him much of a chance to play in some of the cup games, but but he's one that's come into the team this year. Potter really likes him, and Adam Webster's come in again, and Lewis Dunk is just Lewis Dunk, and is better than Michael Keane. And we think, which is. I
mean, I think Keane's been very stop-start this season, so I wouldn't be surprised if whether it's Lewis Dunk or not, I'm not too sure, but somebody will replace him in the England side very soon.
Yeah, well, we hope it's Dunky. He got given an opportunity. He played in that game, the Wayne Rooney International, whatever it was called. That was his one and only international cap so far. But I mean, Lewis, he's one of those players. He's
Brighton through and through,
he's Brighton born and bred. He's as the song goes, he's one of our own, and you can be a little bit myopic when you're talking about your own players sometimes. But I mean, the guy is just absolute quality. And when you see some of the other players that are getting into the England team ahead of him at the moment, you scratch your head and wonder what he's actually done wrong, really. But I mean, Tarkowski is another one. We're thinking, well, really, why?
Dunk is better than Tarkowski. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, but I mean, the 2 assists he's got this season have just been absolute pingers. And the guy he can spot a pass, and
I think he'd be a good member of sort of Gareth Southgate's system in that sense. He's not too different to Maguire in the sense that he can control a ball and can carry the ball. Yeah. I think he's a decent player.
I mean, he is. I mean, he is both-footed, but I mean, he is predominantly right, and I think to get into the England setup. They're really looking for a left-sided one. I think that's probably what's holding him back a little bit. But I mean,
I don't think we are though. I think apart from Harry Maguire, there's a space for one of those.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, it's if it was some of the passes he's been making to set up goals, if that came from a midfielder, then everyone would be purring about it and go, "Oh, look at that! He should be playing for England." But it's as a defender, yeah, like I said, he's Brighton brought to bed. We're a little bit myopic about him. We probably, in our heads, he's probably about 50% better than he probably actually really is in reality. But that 50% is a lot better than everybody else. Let's put it that way. I'm biased. I don't care.
So, yeah. Well, like I say, obviously Lewis Dunk's been there for as long as I can remember watching you guys now.
Yeah, but, he made a debut for us in League One, so he's been around for a while. I mean, he's still only 27 now. So I mean, he's been he's the one every time there's a transfer window. He's the one we're worried about losing because he embodies the spirit,
piece of the team, really, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Well, I was going to move on now to some of the new players who've impressed me recently, and one of them players who I think's really impressed me the most this season's been Aaron Moy, who you brought in from Huddersfield, and obviously he's going to be banned for the game on Saturday after he got sent off at Aston Villa. But how much of a loss will Moy be to you when you play us this weekend?
It's a difficult question, really, because I mean, he came in late. He didn't. He's a player which we've been trying to. We're trying to sign him when he went to Huddersfield in the first place. But he'd been there on loan and obviously chose them because it was familiarity, really. But he came in the first few games. He wasn't very impressive at all. You know, his second touch was a tackle. He was giving the ball away. Didn't look very settled. And then all of a sudden against Spurs, Aaron Connolly got all the plaudits, but Moy was
really impressive in that game.
But Moy was man of the match in that game by a country mile. He was absolutely everywhere. And again, it was a silly red card. He got up at Villa Park. We're a bit. It's just one of those ones you get really annoyed because it was pointless. He didn't need to make that tackle. He didn't need to. I mean, he didn't need to like get in the way of that free kick. But then again, how many times do you see people do that and not get booked? So that's probably the only annoyance.
It is a little bit petty. I mean, I don't know if you watched the Champions League games last night. Yeah. You saw the double yellow card for Phil Foden, and he got sent off for next to nothing in the end.
And then you lose one of your most influential players. But I mean, it's just stupidity by the player at the end of the day, and you can't really legislate for that. But like I said, he's going to be out. He has been improved, and he's a player that we wondered where he would fit into the team, and we've been playing kind of like with two number 10s with Moy and Pascal Gross, and it's been like it's been a 4-2-2-2 formation, which is like it leaves you scratching your head about how the hell that's going to work.
It's a strange one. It's not one that's very regularly used in the league, but maybe that could work to your advantage.
Yeah. Well, I very much suspect that Leandro Trossard, who we were talking about earlier, will come back in. He'll come in
Moy's place,
and he'll play in that position. And he's a proper player, and and he's not afraid to shoot. And if you don't buy a ticket, you don't win the lottery, and that's one of the problems we've had. But we're reluctant. We're creating a lot of chances, but we're not making the right decisions, so we're taking the decision too late or too early. But it's just a case of once that decision making is there, then we should be started like moving up the table, hopefully.
Well, one of the players who hasn't been struggling to take the chances, of course, is Aaron Connolly. He scored twice against Spurs. What can we expect if we're coming up against him? Will he be like the main man, if you like, to cause us issues, you reckon, on Saturday?
If he starts, there's no guarantee of that.
Will he start?
Probably, yeah, probably.
He was very impressive.
He's great. I mean, he's been waiting in the wings for quite a while. He could have come in last season. Chris was very. This is probably another reason why Houghton went, because he wasn't. We've been spending a lot of money on developing our academy, and there's a lot of talent coming through there. And
yeah, but who needs kids when you've got Glenn Murray?
Hey, don't knock Glenn.
No one knocks Glenn, but especially when there's a kid coming through and you persist. I mean, as Everton fans, I know it all too well how long we wait to blood our youngsters. It's quite annoying at times. So I can understand your frustration.
At the moment, so it's quite good. But yeah, no, Aaron's he's just the raw talent and the hunger to score goals. He's very, very direct. He'll run straight at goal and try. His first thought is, can I get a shot away? There's a lot of tenacity there. The arrogance of youth, I guess, to a certain degree as well. Certain things haven't been coached out of him yet, so we're really excited about him. I think he could go a very, very long way. Obviously, I mean, that was one hell of a week for him. I mean, what are you going to do today? I know I'm going to make my first Premier League start. And what am I going to do? Oh, I'm going to score my first goal, and then I'm going to score my second one. And what else can happen? I know. I'm going to get an international call up to the full international squad as well, all in one day. How about that for it?
Not bad, really. I've had worse weekends.
yeah.
A kick in the teeth.
And he is old enough, just about to go to the pub as well, so that's good news.
Oh yeah. Well,
he can join Shane Duffy.
Brighton are now in their third season, back in the top flight. You're beginning to find your feet. Maybe Graham Potter might help take you up a little level as well. You've made some impressive signings as well, like I say, Adam Moy and that. But is the aim still just to stay up, or are Brighton maybe starting to aim a bit higher now? Do you think you should aim a bit higher?
Look, we're Brighton over Albion. We know where we're at. The first things first is always going to be survival, and then Potter's been brought in to try and push us up and try and get us to consolidate. The chairman wants us to be in Europe within. He's got a 10-year plan. He wants us to be not necessarily Champions League, but at least challenging for the top 10, and then see where that takes you. And that's where he wants to be.
Fair play to the owner. I mean, he's got some kind of patience, because our owner's not that patient.
Well, I mean, Tony's. He's one. I said it about Lewis Dunk earlier, but I mean, Tony's one of our own as well. I mean, he's Brighton, brawn and bed. He's a multi-billionaire. He'll put his money where his mouth is, but he'll also be very, very sensible about it.
I think he probably understands. He probably remembers the Goldstone in '97, doesn't he? When you barely stayed up.
There's pictures of him in the boardroom at the Goldstone. So.
Oh wow, there you go.
There's been a member of his family on the board since the '60s. So, I mean, the Blooms are well bred in Brighton. There's lots of
right. And it's great to have a local lad running the club. I think that's always a very big plus for any club, to have someone who truly gets the club, and hopefully has a bit of cash in hand as well to help you kick on as well.
But I mean, first and foremost, he's a fan, but he's also a businessman, and he's a very successful businessman, and he runs the club very, very well. We've got Paul Barber, who is the deputy chairman. That's to give him his official title now, and he ruffles a lot of feathers within the support, but he's again very, very astute, and the club is very, very, very well run. And obviously, bearing in mind that we nearly went out of business like 20-odd years ago, it's wonderful for us to see, and it's wonderful for us to see a fan of the club running the club. And you don't necessarily. There's not many of those around, and we look around. We got show a lot of solidarity with teams like Blackpool, like particularly Bury at the moment, who
fleeced
what they've been through. It's just utterly ridiculous, and and bad.
It is sickening to see what's happened to some teams in English football lately, and abroad as well.
Well, yeah, but like I said, bad owners kill football, and the fit and proper persons test quite clearly isn't appropriate.
It's not fit and proper for.
It's not fit and proper. So it's like we have to whilst we're talking about all this money that comes into the Premier League, we've also got to look at these clubs that are aspiring to be. And I don't think that this is something that I particularly see as very relevant with Everton in particular. That a football club isn't necessarily about 22 blokes kicking a bag of air around a bit of grass every Saturday afternoon. It's more than that. It's about the community. It's about belonging. It's about being part of something.
Definitely.
And these people who come into these clubs, like a Bury, I mean, that Bury was the heart and soul of that community, and they've just ripped that. It's not, like I said, it's not just about the football. It's what it gives to the people.
Really, when you look at it like that.
Yeah, and it's like, I mean, it's very much. Brighton is very much part of its community, and it's a massively important part. And what the community gives to the club, or what the club gives back to the community, is massive. And it's something that often gets forgotten in football.
It's something you can't really put a price on either.
No. But I mean, Everton again, it's something. It's very much. I see that as very much part of the community. I mean, you don't. Without putting too much of a slight on Everton, you don't see too many Toffee shirts wandering around Brighton, but you do see a lot of Liverpool ones. And I do wish that isn't a community thing. That's just someone who probably just is a glory hunter, I guess, for want of a better phrase.
Just get straight to the point there, but I understand what you mean.
Let's put it this way: you don't support teams like Brighton and Everton for the glory, right? So it's.
No, I think it's one of those. It's a family thing, really, for the most part. I think,
and that's
it's
what
in
I
your
love.
blood, really. And I think when it is that way, it's always going to mean more to you. I mean, our lovable neighbours seem to have this really nauseating slogan now: "We are Liverpool. This means more." But for the most part, it's never going to be if it's not in your blood. If it's a family thing, you're always going to be so more closely affiliated with your club. It just goes without saying. And Brighton, like you say, it's so closely knit with the community. You probably feel it the same way Everton fans feel it, and the community initiatives probably follow suit, where you find that your club does a lot for your community.
Yeah, and it's very inventive in the things it does around as well, and it's brilliant, and it's it does unite an awful lot of people, be it people who have not had a proper education and teaching them how to like read and write, or to people who didn't think they could play any sport at all because they've been a amputee or something like that. It's massively important. Our wheelchair football teams, the power chair football team, one of the best in the country. It's all about inclusion, really, and and that's a very important thing at the moment, I guess, with everything that's going on in the game recently, which we don't really want to talk about, but it's important that we do.
No, most certainly, and also I think the clubs are I think, like you say, it's reaching out to the community a lot more. And Everton, I'll be quite honest with you, are atrociously run as football clubs go, but as a community initiative, it's second to none. It's the initiatives that we put on, like looking out for the elderly, looking out for vulnerable youth, and all the initiatives we put on are really, really good. And imagine Brighton's not much different in that sense.
I know we're very, very strong on it, and it's something. I should probably point out that the Albion community, which is our community arm, they've got a club takeover on Saturday, and they just ask everyone to bring a quid to the game and drop it in the bucket because it's their big fundraising day. So,
I mean, it goes without saying, really, for a team who plays at the American Express Community Stadium, really.
Well, Amex are massive. They're massive in Brighton. They're the biggest employer in Brighton. They've got they give a lot back to the community. And and with bearing in mind how big Amex actually is, we're the only sports team in the world they actually sponsor. So that's quite a feather in the cap to Tony Bloom and Paul Barber getting that sort of sponsorship in.
Yeah, it is. It's a big name, and obviously I think it's during the sort of period that they've sponsored you. That's the sort of spell I really remember you guys kicking on and moving on up the leagues.
Although bizarrely, it does always baffle me that no one takes Amex. No one takes.
I can understand that. I've got a friend who's a big advocate of the Amex card and nowhere ever takes him. He's very frustrated too. So moving on to the Amex on Saturday, what can we expect from the Brighton lineup? What sort of formation, what sort of setup can we expect to see from Seagulls this weekend?
It's a very, very difficult question to answer, really, because we're
no
seeing.
Adam Moy.
Well, we know that that's a given, but Graham's been changing it around. He's kept us guessing with his formations and with the lineup. We've had another kid, Stephen Alzati's come into the team, whilst Ady Packham was injured, and he was unlucky to be dropped. David didn't exactly set the world on fire at Villa on Saturday as well, so there's a possibility that he might come back into the team, which is incredible when you're talking about a young kid replacing a full Dutch international who's very pivotal to that Dutch team. So
he was very impressive, Alzate, in the Spurs game.
Yeah, he's brilliant. He's like a shapeshifter. He's brilliant. I don't. Some of the tackles he makes, I've got no idea how he does it. It's remarkable. But yeah, so we've got that. I guess it will be three at the back. So it'll be Burn, Dunk, and Webster. Martin Montoya probably is the wing back. Possibly might bring in Solly March as the other wing back. Possibly, I don't know. It'll probably be the 4-2-2-2 that he's using the last couple of games, but we've got to be wary of what you lot are going to do as well. But
I think it's interesting that you mentioned that the 4-2-2-2 and the three at the back. That's something we've not seen enough from Everton maybe recently, and
it doesn't
it does irk our fans a little bit that maybe we're not as tactically flexible as we could be, and I think the fact that you're in a position to change it up might give you a bit of a tactical edge, even if we're a better team on paper. But
like I said, it's been quite difficult to second guess him because he'll tweak it throughout the game. We might start 4-2-2-2. We might finish like 3-5-3. It's like
I don't know how you're going to sneak an extra player on to play 3-5-3.
Well, yeah. But might be the only way we might be able to win. It's but yeah, it's the footballing intelligence, which is what he's trying to get through to the players and getting them to be flexible within various different systems to try and get the best result from with a thing. I mean, a game at Swansea last year, he used 5 different formations within a game.
I mean, it's not always ideal, but I do think having that kind of flexibility can be an extra string to your bow, especially when maybe the squad's not a bit more limited compared to the top sides in the league.
Well, it's quite difficult, bearing in mind under Chris, we were going, right, what's the plan B? And now we've got a plan B, C, D, E, and F. So it's great. It's great. And the bench is looking very, very strong as well. So there is a lot of flexibility there. But
from what I've heard from you, plus what I've seen so far this season, I don't think you'll be in any real trouble this season.
We're always going to be looking over our shoulders. And I mean, we started last season pretty well. We got up to 10th at one point, and we were looking great up until the 10th of year, and it all went horribly wrong. So, we're not going to get too far ahead of ourselves. We're not going to get too down on ourselves. We're very impressed with what we've seen so far. We think that the personnel that we're seeing and the style of football we're seeing is probably the best we've seen for a very, very, very long time. Some people are saying ever. The football under Gus was pretty impressive as well, to be fair. And that was in League One, which was unheard of back then. So we think that it's going to be really quite exciting, but we just want to see it happen now. At the end of the day, it's a results business. The results have been not quite there. Like I said at the top of the show, we should have at least another 6 points on the board, and we've just conceded some very, very silly late goals, which has cost us dearly. And if that hadn't happened, then we would have been looking certainly a lot further up the table right now.
I do believe, from what I've seen from you guys so far, that you'll finish higher than you did last season. I think you won't get relegated. That's for sure.
Well, I'm touching wood, metal, plastic, my head, anything I can. But I mean, like I said, I mean, in an ideal world, we want to finish higher than 13th because that would equal our highest ever finish in the top division. But like I said, we've got a long way to go before we do that.
Well, let's get straight to the point on this weekend. Of course, what can you see happening this weekend? What is your score prediction for Saturday?
Well, if the last few games everything to go about, we'll sprint into a lead, and then you'll get a league equaliser in the 95th minute. That's probably what's going to happen.
What score would you go with?
6-5.
To be fair, I am going for quite a high-scoring game for the most part. I was going to go with a 2-2.
Yeah, I think if we can if we can play as good as we did against Spurs, then we could win handsomely. But Everton are very different prospects. We can't underestimate anyone in this league because where we are, who we are. We know that you've got a lot of very, very good players that can hurt us. I think if we can play our game to the best of our ability, we'll win. But there's no guarantee of that. We are very wary of the sucker punch and the fact that we have got we are conceding a lot of stupid late goals.
Yeah, I think I can't see us winning the game myself. I think our away form is absolutely shocking. We haven't won an away game in the league so far this season, so at least you should hopefully not get beat for your sake. But I do think I'm hoping we'll get a point. I think it'll be a high scoring game. To be honest, I think both sides play decent football. I think hopefully we both attack and it'll be a nice end to end game. That hopefully gets us first on match of the day for once.
Yeah, well, we were this week.
Woo!
Couldn't believe it.
For losing to Aston Villa.
Yeah, well, there was incident. There was a sending off and VAR disallowed goals.
At least they talk about your disallowed goals. We had a wrongly disallowed goal last week against West Ham that they completely glossed over.
Of course they did. It's like they don't think about things like that. I mean, the top six bias is very much very, very, very evident. We all know it's there, but it's quite often I go and watch two games at a weekend. I watch. This weekend I'm going to two games. I'm going to Brighton v Everton, and then I'm going to watch another one in the evening, which will be Brighton v Everton, the game they show on Match of the Day, which will be completely different to what actually happened. It's just whatever they want you to see.
It is indeed. Speaking of things you want to see, finally, a last question. We always end on a bit of a high note, a sort of light-hearted note. What's your favourite film? Your favourite film and why?
The Crow.
The Crow.
The Crow.
Why? Because it's a bird like a seagull.
This is it. Actually, we've been having a competition this week. Can you name 10 clubs with a bird on their badge?
Oh, there's plenty of those. If you give me another hour or two, I could probably bring them all up for you.
But there is more than 10. But yeah.
Unfortunately, we're a bit short on time now, so.
We'll have
to leave it at that.
It's a classic. It's a classic of a genre of when I was growing up. So it's yeah. And I used to dress up as the Crow at Halloween every year. Back in the days when I had hair and everything. It was great. I should ask you what yours is now, really, shouldn't I?
Yeah. It seems to change week on week. I've been sticking with Ferris Bueller's Day Off for the whole season so far, but last weekend I went to see the new Joker film and I thought that was really hard hitting, so I'm going to say Joker.
Yeah, that's
so yeah,
you go with that. I'm going to stick with your first choice, Bueller. And there's a really cool band called Ferris and Sylvester who I really love at the moment as well, so we'll go with that.
Fantastic. Right, so there you have it. That's a wrap as far as the show is concerned. It's Brighton versus Everton. It's in the Amex Stadium, 3:00 on Saturday. Be sure to tune into all the great content that we've got in the build up to that, and of course my match reaction afterwards. So there you have it, guys. Make sure you give this video a like, comment, subscribe. Also subscribe to the Albion Roar as well if you want more of AD's classic wit.
And I didn't say that.
and that's all we have time for. So thanks, guys, for tuning in on the Toffee Blues.